In the quiet town of Willowbrook, nestled between rolling hills and a lazy river, there stood a small bakery called Sunrise Loaves. Every morning, before the sun peeked over the horizon, the warm glow from its windows spilled onto the cobblestone street, carrying the scent of fresh bread and cinnamon. The baker was an old man named Thomas, known to everyone simply as the Smiling Baker. No one could remember a day when Thomas wasn't smiling. His face, lined with years of kneading dough and stoking ovens, crinkled into a grin that reached his bright blue eyes. Children waved at him through the window as he shaped loaves, and adults lingered longer than necessary just to hear his cheerful good morning. Thomas lived alone above the bakery in a modest room filled with flour-dusted aprons and faded photographs of his late wife, Clara. She had passed away 10 years ago, leaving behind a bakery that was once theirs. Many expected Thomas to close the doors, to let grief dim his light. But he didn't. Instead, he found joy in the small things that filled his days. Each dawn, Thomas rose early and lit the old brick oven. He loved the crackle of the wood as it caught fire, the way the flames danced like old friends. While the oven warmed, he mixed dough, flour flying in soft clouds, yeast bubbling with life. Ah, the magic of rising, he'd murmur, smiling at the way the dough swelled, alive and patient. His favorite moment came when he slid the loaves inside. The heat hugged his face, and the aroma of baking bread wrapped around him like a blanket. It reminded him of Clara's laughter echoing in the kitchen, of shared cups of tea on rainy afternoons. In those simple scents and sounds, joy bloomed anew. Customers came for more than bread. There was Mrs. Hargrove, the widow, who bought a single roll each day. Thomas always slipped in an extra cookie, watching her eyes light up. For the birds, he'd wink, knowing she savored it herself on her porch swing. Young Timmy, the paper boy, dashed in for a warm bun before school. Thomas listened to his tales of adventures, climbing trees, chasing fireflies, and laughed heartily, his smile infectious. Even grumpy Mr. Jenkins, the town blacksmith, softened when Thomas handed him a loaf still steaming. "Keeps the chill out," Thomas would say, and Jenkins would grunt in agreement, a faint smile tugging at his lips. One autumn, a stranger arrived in Willowbrook. His name was Victor, a wary traveler with sharp eyes and a perpetual frown. He had lost his job in the city, his savings dwindling, and hope felt like a distant memory. Seeking cheap lodging, he rented a room above the general store right across from the bakery. Victor noticed Thomas immediately. How could he not? While the town whispered of hard times, crops failing, shops struggling, Thomas smiled through it all. One rainy evening, Victor stormed into the bakery, soaked and irritable. "Why do you smile so much?" he demanded, slamming coins on the counter for a loaf. "The world's falling apart. Bread prices are rising. Winters are harsher. What's there to be happy about?" Thomas paused, wiping flour from his hands. His smile didn't fade. "Come back tomorrow at dawn," he said gently. "Watch me bake." Curious despite himself, Victor returned the next morning. He stood in the corner as Thomas worked. The old man hummed softly, pointing out the joys. The smooth feel of dough under his palms, like shaping clouds. The golden crust forming in the oven's glow. The steam rising like morning mist. "Life gives us big sorrows," Thomas explained, handing Victor a fresh roll. "But it also scatters small gifts everywhere. A warm oven on a cold day, the crunch of fresh bread, a child's thank you." He shared stories of Clara teaching him to bake, of quiet evenings watching stars. Joy isn't in grand things, it's in these moments if we look. Victor bit into the roll, butter melting on his tongue. For the first time in months, something stirred in him, a tiny warmth. Days turned to weeks. Victor helped in the bakery, learning to knead and shape. He noticed the small things Thomas cherished: birds pecking crumbs outside, neighbors sharing stories over coffee, the way sunlight filtered through the window onto rising dough. One crisp morning, as snow dusted the streets, Victor smiled, truly smiled, while handing a loaf to young Timmy. Thomas got it and grinned wider than ever. "You see," Thomas said, "joy is like yeast. A little goes a long way if you let it rise." Victor stayed in Willowbrook, becoming Thomas's apprentice. The bakery thrived, not with riches, but with warmth. And in a world of big worries, the smiling baker reminded everyone, happiness hides in the smallest places. A shared loaf, a kind word, the simple miracle of bread rising anew each day.